81333 and at BBC Derby Sport. Eric Steele and Ed Dawes back at Pride Park. Eric, we'll talk about the performance in a moment. We'll talk about the goal against and the continuation, really, of Derby going forward, in that they keep the ball. There's lots of possession there, but very little clinical edge. But Wayne Rooney's comments there, I must admit, I thought he'd probably be a little angrier with his team, but he sounded there like he was quite happy with the performance. He just wasn't happy with the final third stuff.
Well, he's right in that respect. The final third was just nowhere near good enough. You can't win football matches when you have Sibley hits the bar second half. We didn't work the goalkeeper other than that, and that's been the big problem. That's why we haven't scored in the last 4 games. That's why we've only got 28 goals in 36 games. When he looks back, he'll have a look at some of the crosses that went into the box. I don't think they had the quality that he mentioned there. What I did agree with is the fact that we had people on the same lines. You had Wago and Richards on the same lines. Nobody was looking to get across the near post. Nobody was looking to fill the middle of the goal. There was nobody in the cutback areas. That's his disappointment, that you've got to give the man on the ball better options, but then the man on the ball has to deliver. I mean, the crosses that Byrne put in for Forsyth were terrific. And Forsyth, Craig will be disappointed that he didn't get one of them in the back of the net. Certainly the second one was prime, and he was frustrated by it. So I can see where Wayne's coming from, that at the end of it, he's got to have more. You've got to take risks like he did. Like Louis Watson played a forward ball into Jozwiak. Jozwiak again, just so far away. Just bad decisions. Should have took it first time, has the touch. And to be fair, you give them credit. Millwall blocked the gaps. The back three were terrific for them. Cooper, Pearce, Hutchinson, and then they had Woods and Evans did a job in front. And in the end, they blocked the spaces. But you've got to be smarter. And Derby today couldn't find a way. That'll be his really, really big worry. Never mind disappointment coming up with Tuesday.
But we could probably replay the conversation we had at the back end of the last few games, Ed. And this is I say becoming an issue for Derby. Clearly, goals for have been an issue all season. But what is it now? 1 goal in the last 5 games, and that was a Kazim Richards wonder strike. I think the other one was probably an own goal in there as well against Wycombe, the first goal there. So this is not a new problem that Wayne Rooney has to solve. The problem being that it doesn't look like we're any closer to seeing a resolution.
It's been the same problem all season, isn't it? If we go back to Chris Martin leaving, not replacing his striker, not replacing the forward-thinking, attacking players, it's difficult. But you can understand what he means about getting on the end of these crosses, because the balls were good from the right and the left.
There's some good balls, but there was balls that what you have to have is more targets. They were overhit. But when Roberts came on, he put 2 balls in. We had nobody getting it. What he means, Wayne, is that you've got to be brave to get across defenders, or you've got to be brave to hold your run. You know, there was a 1 or 2 clipped to the far post that were just overhit. But there wasn't enough. Wagon and Kazim were always on the same lines when the ball attacking the ball. People have sussed Kazim in terms of saying, right, if we can block him off in front, which is what they did. But they've got to be cute. Kazim's got to be cuter then. He's got to make his movements a lot earlier. So when we had the ball, Clark gets it on left-hand side. Kazim's still playing on the opposite side. He's got to get across. Wagon spent most of the first half running. It's so predictable what he does. He makes the run. He's got no chance of getting the ball. So that's why, in answer to the preview that you and I discussed, Chris, that's why Wayne's been juggling his wide players, his people alongside the front players, the midfield players, because of the lack of goals, the lack of the bravery on the ball, and the lack of actually being smart to get across defenders, make it more difficult. It was too easy for that back three today. And when he looks back, I think when he's reviewed it and had a look, he'll see that, yes, he wants braver, he wants people to be a bit more courageous getting in the box, but he'd also want to say we've got to give him a few more options. We didn't have anybody on the edge of the box. Roberts did well when he come on. Sibley's hit the bar. But I'd have to ask, I don't know why we play wide men and they don't stay wide. That was a massive issue today, that if you can't get through the middle because they're blocked off in terms of trying to find Kazim, you've got to go wide. But the number of times we look to go wide, Sibley's come inside, Jozwiak's come inside. Patrick Roberts was the only one when he came on that stayed wide in that area, and he had good effect when he came on. So there's worrying problems there with a big, massive game coming up on Tuesday, because we're going to have to defend well, but then we're going to have to be so much better with the ball.
The wide players coming inside, Eric, though, that's surely not something that the management team want them to do. Is it players taking more responsibility in that regard, in keeping to what their job, their fundamental job is?
Well, they're either not understanding the messages, because normally when you play with a 3 up top, so you start with Waghorn wide, you start with Jozwiak wide, they should stay wide. But today, Waghorn, all right, it was telegraphed the fact that he spent the first 20 minutes coming inside, 20 yards inside, which allowed Craig Forsyth to go get the ball in wide areas. But then you've got to have that combination. You can't do that if Waghorn's on the inside. Have a look what happened when Jozwiak and Byrne, and Ed mentioned it in commentary, Jozwiak and Byrne got 2 great little combinations, 2 great crosses. That's what you want. That's what we expect when you have your wide men. But you've got to be wide and to do that. Roberts and Byrne combined when he came on. So we're not getting anything in the consistency of who plays, stays wide, then you can get your combinations with your full-back and with, obviously, a wide player.
81333 at BBC Derby Sport. Let's get through your messages. Peter says Rooney was quite correct. The crosses are fine, but no one willing to try and score if it means getting hurt. We need to get to the end of the season and then get rid of as many players as you can. Let him rebuild with what little money we might have available, plus the youngsters. Alloway on Twitter says forget that result. Mr. Watson looks a little bit of a baller. Mick, every time Eric expresses confidence that we won't go down, I shake my head. All season the evidence has been clear. We can't score, we give away goals, and we play entirely without urgency. Our lack of assertiveness on the pitch is going to undo us. Hector, that game was there for the taking. We chuck all our attacking options onto the pitch and still struggle to create anything substantial. Highlights the importance of the big summer window ahead if we can survive until then. Hoping Lawrence can help when he's back. Should be back for Tuesday. Rooney said in his press conference that he'll be in the squad on Tuesday, and possibly Ibe when he's fit. Any update on him? Sadly, Hector, the update on Ibe wasn't so positive. He's picked up a slight strain training with the under-23s, so it's still a little way off. London Ram on Twitter, it's all gone wrong since that ridiculous decision to throw away the chance of a result at Cardiff. 4 consecutive games without a goal is a massive worry. It doesn't get any easier with Brentford coming to Pride Park on Tuesday. We need to get something. Christian says, I said to my cousin it would end up 2-1 to Derby. It could have been if Derby put away 2 good chances, but Derby did 3/4 of the job, since defending is also part of that performance. This is very much 3 points lost. Dave, we're dire. Rooney's not getting anything different out of the team. There's no urgency or attacking ideas. The tactics are so negative. We are so predictable. It's unbelievable. I can't see us scoring. Never mind winning. Poor performance after poor performance. And that is the obvious concern, Eric, is the run of form is a concern. What is it now? 1 win in 6 and no goal in 4. At this time of the season, we're very much at the business end now. This run needs to end as quickly as possible. But how do Derby do that? How does Wayne Rooney now go about trying to get this team back to where it was? We know it wasn't a free-flowing, attacking lots of goals kind of team, but the resilience that got them to wins over QPR and Bournemouth and Wycombe right at the death. Those performances seem quite a long way ago now, or a long time ago now.
Well, again, it's at risk of being repetitive. It's why we are where we are in the league, is that we're not consistent, and it's shown again today that he changes the team, goes with a 3-4-3 to probably again say we did okay with that against Barnsley. So we looked hard to beat, other than the fact that we concede the only attempt they have on goal, which is a massive disappointment that we concede again from a corner. This time it was first phase as opposed to second phase. But that's the biggest annoyance will be if you're watching the game, is that when we get into them forward positions, you're looking and going, right, where's our width? Our width inevitably was Byrne standing on his own first half. When he did get combinations with Jozwiak, we had them 2 good balls, but there's not enough. There's not enough of that. So it's going to be back to the training ground, show the video again of today and say, right, when we get in them areas, why are you coming inside? I want you to stay there. Waghorn's gone inside for the most of the first 25 minutes. Which allowed Craig Forsyth to get forward, stop their wing back, Romeo, who can be effective. But in the end, never mind stopping him, we need to be more effective in what we did. And that's what he wants. He wants us to be more on the front foot. Training ground, show them the video, show the practices. Then again, he'll have to choose who's he going to play in them wide areas come Tuesday, because that will be vital the way Brentford look to play.
Niall says, really disappointed with that. Nothing at all from anywhere on the pitch. Did the armband affect Kazim today? It was like an end-of-season game where the lads' minds are already on the beach. What next? 10 changes for Brentford. Mr. D, the 2 positives from this season is that fans aren't allowed in the stadium, and hopefully 3 teams that are worse than us this season. Too predictable, no quality on the ball and no threat at all. Derby Dazzler, we are in serious trouble with a midweek tonking by Brentford. Rooney is overthinking it now, changing the formation and team every match to suit the opposition means we have no identity and understanding between the players or an attacking plan. Dan says 5 at the back at home again. We play to stop the opposition, not to win the game. Why do we persist with winger formations? None of our so-called wingers can perform, and we end up ruining centre midfielders by sticking them out there instead. Couple of messages on the formation, Eric, and the way that Derby set up today. Did Derby set up with, I mean, obviously they did, with Millwall in mind, but is there too much thought about the opposition at the moment and not enough on how Derby hurt teams that come to Pride Park?
No, I think he's got the balance right, and in the end you're still going to come back to the individual choices that the players made on the field. I don't think that was anything wrong. What you had a 3. He wasn't expecting them. They played a 3 last time. They played 3 up front. Today, team sheet's gone in. He's probably realised they're only going to play 2 up front. But what you've got then is you've got Shinnie and Knight, who then they don't need to come back in. The back 3 got an awful lot of the ball. Mengi could give it to Edmondson, you could give it to Clark, but that was the problem. When they got the ball, they're now still 50 yards from goal. Can't find Kazim, can't find Waghorn, can find Forsyth, but it goes back. It's not a case of the formation, it's a case of the people. When you pick the front 3, they've got to play as the front 3. We didn't see that today. Jozwiak did not get in the areas. When he did, he fell over, or he got tripped, or he's wanting a foul. Byrne, in the end, never got anywhere near enough of the ball because Jozwiak couldn't keep a hold of it. Forsyth played as the wing back high, but then he's got to have somebody shown on the point. So at the end of it, I don't think it's about changing the formation. No, it's about the players having a more positive attitude with the ball.
81333 at BBC Derby Sport. Peter says, how many teams have survived on 39 to 49 points? I don't think this team is capable of getting another 3 points. We're going down or going to survive by the barest of margins. Tony, not surprised by that result. We should be ashamed. Our game plan is to worry about the opposition rather than attacking, especially at home. Jono, does Wayne Rooney have to meet a certain criteria regarding possession stats? Same old is becoming a thing and seriously predictable. Is this Derby team, if you're Millwall, you came with a game plan, you executed it perfectly. So teams, are they beginning to get wise now as to what Derby like to do, especially when Kazim Richards is in the team and is that focal point?
I think we've seen it, haven't we? I think we saw it at Coventry last week, where there was nothing really in the game at all, but Coventry were able to nullify Kazim with a bit of mind games in the opening 5 to 10 minutes, and then they got that fortune with that misplaced pass from Byrne and then closed the game out. And it seems to be, if you can stop Derby's focal point, then they're not going to be able to create too much or hold the ball up front. And that's the problem today. He was right in terms of the balls down the flanks, and the wing backs were decent and the delivery was decent, but I don't know, it's just an odd one, the fact that all of a sudden nobody's charging into the box and people are quite static going forward. So yeah, something needs to change, and it's easy to say that with Brentford coming to town on Tuesday and then Stoke away next Saturday, but something needs to change. Derby are missing a spark up front, and if Kazim is the man that has been kind of pinpointed to nullify, then they have a problem, because they're back to where they were earlier in the season when they had no attacking threat at all.
Just some more comments from Wayne Rooney at his written press conference at Pride Park. He says, again, reiterating really what he told Ed, we have to want to score a goal. They need better movement, a desire to get across their man. We put some really good balls in today, but our forwards not good enough today. We have to want it more, anticipate balls better. Some interesting comments on Louis Sibley. He has to do more. He has to do more when he gets these moments. I know it wasn't long. He has to show something, and he did praise Patrick Roberts and Louis Watson. The difference with them is that they're prepared to take risks. And then he was asked, will Derby stay in the Championship? He said, yeah, absolutely. Risk-taking, it seems to be about risk-taking, Ed.
Well, it's clear.
And Louis Watson is showing that in the glimpses that we see of him. I'm
excited by him because he has the ball in a congested area and he looks for the pass. He has, if you watch the games that he's played and the substitute appearances that he's made now, he looks for the pass and he's able to thread a ball through the eye of a needle to that player, and he's done that more or less every time he's played the ball forward. He had to stretch to play a ball out to the right in front of us, which I can't remember who the player was, had to battle to win. But every other ball, he's managed to be able to thread the ball through a congested area. And that's what you want. I mean, you don't want the side-to-side stuff, do you? You want to go forward through the middle at times to vary it up. And Derby don't do that. They're always trying to go down the wides. and playing these side-to-side passes. So it's nice to have that kind of difference from a youngster who surely is one for the future. But Patrick Roberts showed a glimpse today that he was quite happy to run at the fullback, and he was fortunate because they took off Murray Wallace, who had closed more or less everything down that Nathan Byrne had tried to do in the second half, and then he went off, and Derby had a little bit more fortune down the right with Byrne, and then Roberts coming in on his left hand side. But it's that urgency, isn't it? It's that movement off the ball as well, because it's all very well that Roberts cuts in, takes on 3 players, and then has got another 3 players to beat. If your teammates are standing behind blue shirts, you've got to move. You've got to move around and give them an option, and they've not been doing that, which is obviously why they haven't been testing the goalkeeper.
And his Louis Sibley comments, not for the first time when asked about Louis Sibley, Wayne Rooney has said exactly that. He has to show more and he has to do more. I'm not sure. What's the thinking there? Is that more a I need a reaction from him, and this is the best way to elicit a reaction?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, Sibley's an enigma, isn't he? Because it's like we've seen so much from him. We've seen short bursts of what he can do. We've seen him win games on his own, all that kind of stuff. But this season, he's not played many games, and when he has come on, the standout one was Birmingham. He started that game at Birmingham, and he ripped them to shreds down that left-hand side. So you think that with Derby's lack of creativity, perhaps, and attacking threat, he might be the one to step up, because someone has to. Eric's return. So, I mean, Sibley, Eric. Wayne Rooney has highlighted him in the press conference. He has to do more.
Which I can see why, because he's not been consistent anywhere near. That's what you had to get in his game. Second season, had the breakthrough, and certainly then people got wise. They saw what Sibley could do. So all of a sudden, as soon as he gets the ball 25-30 yards from goal, there'll be somebody facing him up. Well, you've got to be cute then. I keep mentioning the word smart, and he hasn't been smart when he's played, other than the Birmingham game where he did do well. And if he's going to learn a lesson from that game, what he did, he stayed wide and he attacked the fullback. What's it done when he came on today? For some reason, again, he ended up coming inside. That would infuriate us. So at the moment, you're not getting any consistency. Back to it. There's not enough consistency in the approach from the wide players. And certainly when we've seen when people do a job on Kazim, we then find, right, what are our options? There wasn't enough options today. Not enough options on the ball. And certainly when we did get the ball in the box, we were all on the same lines. When Wayne sees the actual crosses that he talked about, he will be annoyed. Because the one thing you look to do is you look to have different angles, different shapes. Have we got somebody on a cutback? So when you look up, in the end, we were just putting balls in there as opposed to trying to find somebody. So the quality wasn't as consistent as it can be, and that's why you're not scoring goals.
Yeah, but I mean, just intrigued on why it's Sibley that's getting that treatment, Eric. I know that some managers, I mean, Jose Mourinho is the master at this, isn't he? Some call him the master, and some say it's not right. He does this with players. Dele Alli, the prime example. He tries everything. He hangs them out to dry in the media. He puts an arm around them. He leaves them out the squad. It's not the first time that Rooney has said these things about Sibley, that he has to do more and show more. But even though he got, how many minutes did he get today, Ed?
20.
Yeah, it was about 20. Where are we? Sibley 80. No, it wasn't. It was 85.
Oh no, sorry, it was
5 minutes. I mean, that's tough.
Sorry, no, that's Barnsley. Sorry, I got the wrong page.
Barnsley, yeah, I was going to say.
73 came on.
There you go.
So yeah, 20 minutes.
22 minutes.
Is that enough time to really change a game?
Well, Roberts did enough. Roberts did more when he came on. He affected the game when he came on because he got combinations going with Byrne. He drove inside. He had the shot on target, which was a bobble, but he looked a threat. Sibley, he had the one shot, which was from the corner, which he did. He came off the goalkeeper in that area, hit the shot, hit the crossbar. Unlucky on that. But other than that, I can't think of anything he did because he didn't stay wide. He didn't get the ball. He didn't have a combination with any other player. So I think that's what's going to frustrate Wayne about it. And I can see why he hasn't started. If he'd continued to play, Chris, as he did against Birmingham, you would stay in the team. But don't forget, he was brought off after 70 minutes. And in the end, the other thing that will be annoying Wayne is the fact that how many bookings has he had, Ed? He's up to 5?
He's I haven't got that stat here, but
I think he's had 5 yellow cards, which again is the discipline that you want. You don't want players that start a game. You don't want attackers getting yellow cards early on in games. So he has got to sort his game out. And at the moment, Wayne's between, do you play him as a 10 or do you play him wide?
10 has to be 10, surely. Isn't that his best position?
It is for me, because that's where he was most effective last year. But to do that, you're going to have to say, okay, who's going to come out the team to let that happen? It might be now, you could see against Brentford, totally different team. Because the one thing we'll not get against Brentford, Chris, we won't get 70% possession playing Brentford on Tuesday night.
4 yellow cards for Sibley.
Yeah, 4 yellow cards. So there's a discipline problem with Sibley. He gives the free kick away at Chef Wed. We concede the goal from that. No need to tackle. That there is, in the end, with him, there's a temperament problem when he does give these free kicks away that you don't want. But ultimately, you've got to affect games more when he's come on. And all right, today, yeah, well done. He was in the right area. That could have gone in on another day. And that at the moment is the way it's gone for Derby. The one shot he has hits the bar and comes out. So there's a massive frustration in when you see how Derby are attacking and trying to build play to create chances.
Jim says by Tuesday night we could have only earned 2 points from 6 games. We are back in it with no goal threat whatsoever. Robert says what happened to the style and consistent 11 that we had a month ago, 94th minute, and we are still playing it out from the back. Joe, what is the point of Juzwiak getting into great positions if he never does anything with them? So frustrating, but a message from Connor that says why only single out Juzwiak? He is not the only one struggling at the moment. EJ, poor display, lack of quality and no creativity. I don't think we can keep talking about green shoots and improvement. Where to now? We're just like a rudderless tanker with no direction. Nothing is improving. Tim says, Steve McLaren, he observes the game. Maybe he can influence the game tactically like he used to when he was manager. I suppose the answer there, Eric, is he's the technical director. And therefore that's his title. He's not manager, he's not first team coach. His job is very different to what it was when he was last here.
Yeah, he's there for when Wayne needs advice. Wayne can go and seek it. I don't think he'll be, unless he's asked, he's not going to be coming down and saying to Wayne, end of the game or whatever. There will be conversations, I'm sure. So there will be the backup that Steve's there if he needs, in terms of, how did you see the game? And I think he sometimes needs that. As a young manager, he's got his other coaches there. He's got a video to watch. But inevitably sometimes you do need another voice, another set of eyes. So he's got that with Steve. I'm sure they'll be speaking between now and Tuesday, because it has become major when you think we've only got Stoke and then a 2-week gap with the international break. So we've got to get points from somewhere in the next 2 games.
David says, surely no surprise to anyone how Millwall played. Saw it often enough when Gary Rowett was in charge and we were never going to break them down. But no goals in 4 shows what we are doing is not working in general. Radical change of approach is needed, or relegation beckons. Edward, I'm not sure where the next goal is going to come from, let alone a win. Luckily so far this season that there's 3 teams that are worse than us. Ivan Toney has scored more goals than Derby this season. Yeah, he's got more goals than a few sides, hasn't he, Ivan Toney? He's having an incredible season. And finally for now, Mark says, disappointing at times, an inability to defend set pieces, 70% possession and nothing to show for it, no real attacking know-how, relegation still a very real threat. When you look at the teams in and around Derby at the moment, and with performances recently, Ed and Eric, it does feel like Derby may well be saved, and we know things change quickly, and who knows what Tuesday will bring, who knows what Saturday will bring, and then it's the international break. But at the moment, with the teams that are below Derby, that could well be the saving grace, which is obviously not a very palatable thought when there are worse teams than you, but the way Birmingham are going, the way Sheffield Wednesday are going, however, it's something that Derby just cannot rely on. They can't afford to, because Rotherham, with those games in hand, could still have a major say.
They could, but I think there are at least 4 teams worse than Derby.
We need 11 points from me. 50 points I think will keep us up. I think we'll get 11 points from 10 games. But inevitably everybody will be saying it's always me that says that's partly why I think Derby will stay up, is because I've seen 3 worse teams than Derby. Certainly in what we've seen now, we're coming round to, we've got games at home against Birmingham. They're the ones that will come down to. Birmingham,
Sheffield Wednesday, Derby play.
Yep.
I think Birmingham are the problem team for that bottom area, look, because they've played 36. They're 3 points outside the bottom 3, and Rotherham have 4 games in hand over them. Sheffield Wednesday have 2 games in hand over them. So if I was Birmingham, I'd be really nervous, because you know what Rotherham can do. They will battle. They will battle, and if they know they're in a fight, they will battle, and that would be really concerning for me. I do think that Derby will win a few more games to survive.
Yeah, I think unless I'm wrong, I'm looking at 50 points should keep us in this league. So if you look at 50 points, how many have Birmingham got to get to get to 50? How many have Sheffield, Rotherham got to get? Wycombe will have to have an unbelievable run. They can all affect. Trust me, they're all going to have a say in who stays up and who goes up, because they've all got. When the games get desperate, it's amazing how results do tend to come, performances tend to come. Now Derby in the end have got a scrap fight. I'm not bothered how they get it. They've got to get a win out the next 2 games to get over that 40 points. That puts the pressure, because so far, Chris, we've been lucky in the last 3 games where the results have gone for us. Today they haven't. Huddersfield have won away. Would you have said they'd win at QPR? Not really, not the way QPR have had a decent run of form. Ultimately, Wycombe have won today. Who've Sheffield got tomorrow? Norwich?
Yeah, Norwich.
You'd probably look and go, how many games will they be on then? One less than Derby? Ultimately, it's going to be... It was always going to be the same way, Chris. It's always going to be the if, buts and maybes. We're all going to be saying, if we do this, if they do that. What Wayne's got to do is try and get that team refocused very, very quickly. And I think he has got a headache in terms of selection. I don't think he's got a problem in terms of, like I said before, his goalkeeper. I don't think he's got a problem with his back 4, whether he plays a 3 or a 4. Edmondson again was brought off, so we went to a 4. I think he hasn't got issues in terms of that. I thought midfield today, what's Jason Knight gets brought off. All of a sudden he's dipped in form. I never saw one forward run from Jason Knight today.
They're too deep. They're along the same lines. They're not that link from the back to the front.
Shinny's had more shots in the last 2 games than Waghorn's had in 4 games. Kazim's had in 4 games. That's got to be a concern. Why aren't they getting on the ball? Why aren't they in the areas? So inevitably it's a tough job at the moment for Wayne, but we knew it was going to be. I don't think the people that are texting in, if they thought it was ever going to be as easy just because we hit some good form, that's exactly what this Premier League, watching Premier League on your computer there.
Sorry.
It's what the EFL League, it's what it's about. That you're all teams will have that little run which will think, oh yeah, here we go. That was never going to be the case for Derby. We knew all along this squad is going to have to scrap and fight to stay in this league, and they will do that. And at the moment it seems deep and dark, but Wayne will get to work, the staff will get to work. Players have got to look at themselves, Chris. It's not always about Wayne and the formation. It's about certain players and certain performances. They really do need to start saying, why am I in this team? And then they'll not be surprised why they're out the team.
Chris Wood has scored for Burnley at Goodison Park. Everton 0, Burnley 1. 15 minutes played there. We'll be hearing from Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank shortly after Burton Albion beat Crewe 3-0. What a day for Kane Hemmings. Before we do, it is a strange season, we know that, and you were both at Pride Park, and for a large part of the season you were at away games as well. I know you watch away games these days from a screen. That'll change in the next couple of weeks, but it is tough for fans who are watching and listening, and you can understand and appreciate the messages of concern, and in particular messages like fight and desire and urgency. We don't see enough of that. When you are there and you are very much watching live in the flesh, when you watch Derby, do you see a team that... What sort of team do you see? Do you a team that's out of form when every team goes through this in this division and there is a resolution around the corner? Or do you feel, Ed and Eric, that there is a real despondency or lack of confidence or something that is preventing Derby from winning games at the moment?
I don't think it's confidence. I just think it's ability. They were fighting, they were energetic on Wednesday night at Barnsley and could have won the game. Today they had 70% possession. I don't feel that there was a lack of confidence. It was, as Wayne's alluded to, it was a lack of persistence and getting into the penalty area to the delivery of the crosses, which were decent for the majority. So I don't think that's confidence. That's just ability.
Lack of game understanding, lack of football nonce. That's what they are. That's where we are because of what we've got within this squad. And that's why, you look at it now. Look at our goals scored. How many assists has Waghorn had? Jozwiak had? How many shots on target has Kazim had? All of a sudden, the focal point of the team. People are now starting to say you've got to mark him. You've got to look at him. Now, ultimately, that's where there's a lot of problems here. To get out of where we are, we have got to get back to scoring goals.
The assist thing is really interesting, actually, because Nathan Burns had 2, Buchanan's had 2, Jozwiak's had 2, Kazim's had 2, Waghorn's had 2, and then Sibley 1, and then Lee Gregory 1, and that's it.
And that's where we are. That's why we are where we are. And ultimately, what can Wayne do? That's what was said before, Chris. I'm repeating myself. That's why he's juggling his team around to try and get the right balance. And if he gets it, and we beat Brentford 1-0, 2-0, he'll want to keep the same front line. But at the moment, that's where the problem lies. But also in the midfield area. Jason Knight and Graham Shinney today. Graham Shinney was the only one of them two that wanted to get forward. Jason Knight could have quite happily, he should have been told by Clark, he should have been told by Edmondson, get yourself forward.
Jason Knight's form has dropped off massively compared to what we were seeing before Christmas.
I've not seen him make a run now for 3 games.
No.
He did great on Wednesday night in terms of dogging and tackling, but we've got to get more. You've got to get more from your midfield players than you see from Jason Knight at the moment. So that's why you might see Louis Watson come in against Brentford. Why is Wayne tempted? Because he came on and played 2 forward passes that we hadn't seen from Jason Knight.
Balls.
Yeah, and that's what. So again, you can see why Wayne's having the problems to pick the team and to say, because there's no consistency in the attacking force at the moment.
A couple of your messages on Louis Sibley. Picking on Sibley is absolutely ridiculous, says no name on this text. There are many players who have been miles worse than him. He was the only player to move and show desire in the box and hit the bar. If more players showed his desire to hurt the opposition and get booked, we would get more points. We need players who get stuck in. Dan, why are we scapegoating Sibley? He's a midfielder being played out of position before our other wingers, because our other wingers are not performing.
Nobody's picking on anyone.
No, nobody's picking. Nobody's scapegoating either.
We're talking about performances of individual players. There's no need to be so defensive. I mean, it's all there for everyone to see. You know, if you can't analytically criticise or constructively criticise individuals who, from my belief and Eric's belief, who are not performing to their potential, if you can't do that, then you might as well give up and go home.
I think it was more on Wayne Rooney's comments. He has to do more when he gets these moments. I know it wasn't long. He has to show something rather than anything else.
Okay, I'll back off then.
Yes.
Look at me, defensive from the front.
Exactly.
There's only us and the ground staff left, Chris. So we're getting a bit. Yeah, we're getting lonely. You see.
I was on my feet there, ready to go.
He was ready. He was going.
I can tell. You set the tone right from the off when you two you were jibing at one another from just after 2:00. So anyway,
it tells you what's going on the field as to why we're having to have all this backup knowledge and trivia. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's not enough, and that's what the fans would be finding now.
Yeah.
When they're watching this, they would be they would have been booed off today.
Yep.
They would have been booed off at half time, booed off at full time. Maybe that's what some of them need. Maybe they need a bit more from Wayne Rooney, actually kicking 1 or 2 up the backside to say, come on, you're playing for a contract. You're playing to show me I shouldn't go and buy somebody better than you.
Isn't that what he's verbally doing to people like Louis Sibley?
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
He's playing the game. He wants a reaction, so he might play Sibley. He's getting a reaction because of the fact he mightn't play Jason Knight and play Louis Watson on Tuesday.
Something needs to change, doesn't it? Because you've got to have that link between the midfield and the forward line, and you've got to have more ambition to get it forward, to get it into Kazim's feet in the box, to thread those passes through. And Shinney will go around, intercept and break up play and win the ball for you, but the other person has to play these balls, and Knight isn't and Bird isn't.
No.
We're rushing towards the end of the programme. Well, such are the nonsense of this league. If Derby go and beat Brentford, then no one is really surprised. It's just that no one goes into that game with any confidence. However, it does remind me a little bit of when Derby went through that run where they lost to Sheffield Wednesday, they lost to Chorley, then they lost to Rotherham, and then Bournemouth arrived, and there was a big fear because Bournemouth were playing well, and then it triggered a series of 1-0s. Something like that is desperately needed.
Got to create chances and score them. That's basically it. And if we're going to talk about the team, we've just talked about it, Eric and I off air. Jozwiak has to drop out now. I'd bring in Louis Watson. I would give him the chance.
I think it's going to be certainly if we play anywhere near we have today, we could be on the end of what we don't want to see. But ultimately, I think, as you know, when we've played against the top teams, there just seems to be a different energy, a different attitude. That's what Wayne wanted. He's talked more tonight about attitude and desire from the players than I've heard him say before. And I think that's what he's got to get into them players ready for Tuesday. If you haven't got if you don't want to turn up, tell me, and I won't even consider you. But he certainly has got a problem as to what he's at the moment. He is really scratching to find his best front line. I don't say his best 11. He's struggling to find the best 11 in terms of forwards in that midfield area. So at the moment, we just all of a sudden had too many dip in form. Jozwiak's dipped, Wagon's dipped, Kazim's dipped the last 2-3 games. That's the major concern I've got. We've got to get Kazim back where that ball goes into him early in the game and he affected. So there's a lot of things that's got to be worked on. We've got to find a way to get that ball into Kazim. We've got to find a way of getting 2 wide men that will provide more than they're giving at the moment.